Welcome. I'm Matthew Phelps, co-author of the Turning to God's Word Bible Study, In the Beginning, the Book of Genesis. Today we'll be talking about Lesson 12, The Birth of Isaac, which covers the book of Genesis, chapters 20 and 21. From there, Abraham journeyed toward the territory of the Negeb, and dwelt between Kadesh and Shur, and he sojourned in Gerar. And Abraham said of Sarah his wife, "She is my sister." And Abimelech, king of Gerar, sent and took Sarah. But God came to Abimelech in a dream by night, and said to him, "Behold, you are a dead man, because of the woman whom you have taken, for she is a man's wife." So, this is very similar to something we saw before in Egypt, although now it is not in Egypt, where Abraham is traveling and again claims that his wife Sarah is his sister because she's afraid that people will want to take her, which is exactly what happens. Abimelech takes Sarah. There are some differences in this account than from the other one. It seems like an example of what's called a diptych, which is kind of a two-face or two sides of the same story. The way this book was put together, it happens a number of times that the same basic story seems to be told more than once. And this is another example of that. Although it's worth considering when that happens, what's the same and what's different, and why was this included as well. And here, there are definitely some differences that are worth noting. So far, it's reading pretty similarly to what happened in Egypt. Now Abimelech had not approached her, so he said, "Lord, will you slay an innocent people? Did he not himself say to me, 'She is my sister'? And she herself said, 'He is my brother.' In the integrity of my heart and the innocence of my hand have I done this." A few important things here. First of all, how innocent can Abimelech be when he's just grabbing random women? Yes, okay, she was married. Whoops, apparently that makes it bad. But I guess if she wasn't married, it's okay to just grab her? Maybe not. Maybe he's not as innocent as he claims. First of all, if he weren't so inclined as to just grab random women that are traveling, then he would not have gotten in trouble to begin with. Here we also see the big difference between the story with Pharaoh and this one, which is the story goes well out of its way to make sure to emphasize that Abimelech did not know Sarah in the biblical sense of the word, that she remained chaste in his care, which is very important considering what is about to happen, which is we're about to see the birth of the child that she was promised, and we wouldn't want to have any doubt whatsoever about who is the father of that child. So we see in this story a substantial emphasis on making sure that Abimelech is not a contender for father of Isaac, and he's not. Then God said to him in the dream, "Yes, I know that you have done this in the integrity of your heart, and it was I who kept you from sinning against me. Therefore I did not let you touch her. Now then, restore the man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you shall live. But if you do not restore her, know that you shall surely die, you and all that are yours." So Abimelech rose early in the morning, and called all his servants, and told them all these things. And the men were very much afraid. Then Abimelech called Abraham, and said to him, "What have you done to us? And how have I sinned against you, that you have brought on me and my kingdom a great sin? You have done to me things that ought not to be done." And Abimelech said to Abraham, "What were you thinking of, that you did this thing?" Abraham said, "I did it because I thought, there is no fear of God at all in this place, and they will kill me because of my wife. Besides, she is indeed my sister, the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife. And when God caused me to wander from my father's house, I said to her, 'This is the kindness you must do me. At every place to which we come, say of me, he is my brother.'" So Abimelech and Abraham have a little discussion about what's going on here. God has told Abimelech You have to get Abraham to pray for you, and then I won't kill you. And to do that, you definitely have to give his wife back to him. So Abimelech brings Sarah back to Abraham, and then gets accusatory against Abraham, like Abraham is the one in the wrong here. Why didn't you tell me that she's your wife? And Abraham says, I didn't think you'd fear God, and besides, she is my sister, and I told you that, and that is true, so what's the big deal? I suppose you can kind of see both points here, and God is okay with both sides, but certainly in our culture, the way Abimelech behaved is not acceptable. But they seem to be working it out, and so let's see. We haven't quite reached the part where Abimelech's not going to die yet. Let's see how he manages that. Then Abimelech took sheep and oxen and male and female slaves and gave them to Abraham and restored Sarah his wife to him. And Abimelech said, Behold, my land is before you. Dwell where it pleases you. To Sarah he said, Behold, I have given your brother 1,000 pieces of silver. It is your vindication in the eyes of all who are with you, and before everyone you are righted. Then Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech, and also healed his wife and female slaves, so that they bore children. For the Lord had closed all the wombs of the house of Abimelech because of Sarah, Abraham's wife. So, Abimelech manages to get Abraham to pray for him by paying him a lot. So once again, Abraham becomes very wealthy as a result of a random king wanting his wife/sister, and God intervening and wanting to return Sarah to Abraham. Again, it's important to note and to emphasize God wanted not only Abraham for his plans, but he also wanted Sarah. They're both a part of what he's trying to do here. And without both, he couldn't, or let's not say couldn't, all things are possible with God. He wanted both of them to do what he was working to do. And so he makes sure that they stay together, and in this case, that Sarah's virtue remains intact. The Lord visited Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did to Sarah as he had promised. And Sarah conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age, at the time of which God had spoken to him. Abraham called the name of his son who was born to him, whom Sarah bore Isaac. And Abraham circumcised his son Isaac when he was 8 days old, as God had commanded him. Abraham was 100 years old when his son Isaac was born to him. And Sarah said, God has made laughter for me. Everyone who hears will laugh over me. And she said, Who would have said to Abraham that Sarah would suckle children? Yet I have borne him a son in his old age. So, as God has promised, Sarah bears Abraham a son, Isaac. And again, we see Sarah kind of reprieve herself from her earlier denial of having laughed when all this was said. After it's over, she's more than willing to just totally openly laugh about it and say, no, really, this is funny, and everybody's going to think this is funny. And she seems to be in thoroughly good spirits about the whole thing, which makes sense because at that time, a woman being barren or infertile was seen as a mark of substantial shame. And so to have that lifted in her old age would be surely nice, but also it definitely is funny. And the child grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast on the day that Isaac was weaned. But Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Abraham, playing with her son Isaac. So she said to Abraham, Cast out this slave woman with her son, for the son of this slave woman shall not be heir with my son Isaac. And the thing was very displeasing to Abraham on account of his son. But God said to Abraham, Be not displeased because of the lad, and because of your slave woman. Whatever Sarah says to you, do as she tells you. For through Isaac shall your descendants be named. And I will make a nation of the son of the slave woman also, because he is your offspring. So Abraham rose early in the morning and took bread and the skin of water, and gave it to Hagar, putting it on her shoulder, along with the child, and sent her away. And she departed, and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. Earlier in this lesson, we saw a diptych, a repetition of the story we'd seen earlier. Here is another that is beginning, which is the sending away of Hagar and Ishmael. In this case, Abraham is the one who sends them away, and initially doesn't want to. And the other one, Sarai, chased her away. Here, Abraham sends her away as a result of Sarah's concern over the inheritance of her son. And seeing the two, she does not, now that she actually has a son, she has no interest in her son being seen as an equal to Ishmael, and wants to make it clear that Ishmael is the one. And Abraham, good for him, sticks up for Ishmael and says, no, I don't feel right about this, but God intervenes and says, no, this will be okay, I'll take care of this child, and make a great nation of him as well. But do what your wife wants. So God is also very concerned about protecting Isaac's inheritance, which is a part of the blessing of the patriarchs that we will see as a great, God's people are being formed as a people. When the water in the skin was gone, she cast the child under one of the bushes. Then she went and sat down over against him a good way off, about a distance of a bowshot. For she said, let me not look upon the death of the child. And as she sat over against him, the child lifted up his voice and wept. And God heard the voice of the lad, when the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven and said to her, what troubles you, Hagar? Fear not, for God has heard the voice of the lad where he is. Arise, lift up the lad, and hold him fast with your hands, for I will make him a great nation. Then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. And she went and filled the skin with water, and gave the lad a drink. And God was with the lad, and he grew up. He lived in the wilderness, and became an expert with a bow. He lived in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took a wife for him from the land of Egypt. So here we see, God intervenes when he hears Ishmael cry. So we see that some of God's favor toward Abraham is also with Abraham's son Ishmael. He hears Ishmael cry, and he steps in and intervenes. And this time, in the earlier version of the story, it was an angel who appeared. And this time, it says God did all of these things. Now, maybe through an angel, maybe not, but it is an interesting difference in the way it's talked about and described. And God provides a drink of water. And we see that Ishmael grows up and takes a wife from Egypt. And we've heard that he will himself prosper. But we won't hear much more about him now, because the story that we're focusing on emphasizes Isaac. At that time, Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his army, said to Abraham, God is with you in all that you do. Now therefore, swear to me here by God that you will not deal falsely with me, or with my offspring, or with my posterity. But as I have dealt loyally with you, you will deal with me, and with the land where you have sojourned. And Abraham said, I will swear. So here we see a clear mark of Abraham's prosperity and blessing. If the local king Abimelech can see how well Abraham is doing and how blessed by God he is, it's clearly extremely apparent that Abraham is very blessed. And Abimelech decides he doesn't want any trouble with Abraham down the road because of that, and tries to get Abraham to make an agreement that he won't interfere with his kingship or his land in any way. And Abraham is willing to make that agreement. When Abraham complained to Abimelech about a well of water which Abimelech's servants had seized, Abimelech said, I do not know who has done this thing. You did not tell me, and I have not heard of it until today. So Abraham took sheep and oxen and gave them to Abimelech, and the two men made a covenant. Abraham set 7 ewe lambs of the flock apart, and Abimelech said to Abraham, what is the meaning of these 7 ewe lambs which you have set apart? He said, these 7 ewe lambs you will take from my hand, that you may be a witness for me that I dug this well. Therefore, that place was called Beersheba, because there both of them swore an oath. So they made a covenant at Beersheba. Then Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his army, rose up and returned to the land of the Philistines. Abraham planted a tamarisk tree in Beersheba and called there on the name of the Lord, the everlasting God. And Abraham sojourned many days in the land of the Philistines. So, Abimelech wants Abraham's word that he's not going to interfere in any way, which Abraham's willing to do, but he says, while we're talking, let's deal with this whole matter of this well that your servants decided to fill in. Presumably, they were trying to get Abraham not to make himself too comfortable in their land by getting rid of the source of fresh water. They could be a place Abraham could stay. And Abimelech says, okay, yes, you own this well, you dug it, and Abraham pays him for that acknowledgement, and they agree accordingly, and the covenant is struck between the two of them, the agreement, that basically Abraham's not going to interfere with Abimelech's matters, and that well is Abraham's. And they go about their business peacefully, and Abraham travels around the land quite a bit. This has been an overview of Lesson 12 of the Turning to God's Word Bible Study. In the beginning, the book of Genesis. For more information, consult our written study or visit us online at turningtogodsword.com.